Hi y'all and welcome. Today I am here to talk specifically to those of you who dread working with commercial sewing patterns, all right? As many of you know, if you follow me over on social media under @Sewspire, I have successfully, in my opinion, completed view D of this McCall's M7284 pattern, and this is view D here as well as on the back there. And then I am wearing my second attempt at this tunic. I'll share photos of the first one. It was equally as lovely. I just selected these fabrics specifically for what I thought would be my tunic. So the process, learned a lot about sewing, a lot about reading patterns, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share that with the people in our community who, like myself, were really intimidated by commercial sewing patterns. All right, so my first tip for you is when you get your pattern and pull everything out of the envelope, you know, it's folded and all compact like this, and then of course all of the pattern pieces come together on big sheets. So my very first tip is to iron everything. Just use low heat, no steam, and iron everything nice and flat. Have a big table or surface that you can lay that on, and then that will significantly reduce the anxiety that I think you may also have felt if you attempted this before, that it's just overwhelming. So that in and of itself will reduce some of that overwhelm that us visual learners experience when we open a commercial sewing pattern. All right, so first tip, iron everything. You'll feel a little sense of control once you do that. It's nice. All right, then what you need to do is find the instructions. And the very first thing that I want to tell you about the instructions is at least 75% of this information will not pertain to the project that you're actually going to make. All right, so you're just choosing one view to complete for this first go around. And obviously a pattern has more value than just the one view, but that again ties right into that overwhelm, and we're just trying to reduce that for the visual learners in our community so that we can be successful, right? Okay, so I chose view D. So I took a highlighter pen and I went through the instructions. Now I'm not trying to even comprehend the instructions. I just want to identify anything in these instructions, and for me, even though there were 4 sheets of instructions, only 2 sheets and very little information on those 2 sheets applied. So I just went through and highlighted anything that was going to pertain to this particular tunic that I was going to make. So that way I would at least know where to look for the information, so that every time it wasn't like starting the book over again, right? Or having to read through a whole bunch of information and waste energy and time that didn't even pertain to my shirt. All right, so then once you have the instructions under control and semi-contained, the next thing that you're going to want to do is, most patterns, professional commercial patterns, will come with a glossary, okay? So I am going to ultimately, I'm going to put this on my copier and then cut this out and laminate it, so I just have that glossary right next to my sewing machine. So in this case, they just have a few terms on there double stitch, ease stitch, finish, gather, narrow hem, reinforce, slip stitch, stay stitch, top stitch, and under stitch. So you want to take the time and familiarize yourself with those terms, okay? And you'll know that they're important because they're in all caps throughout the instructions. So then study those terms, and if their explanation on a pattern is not clear enough, Google it, YouTube it, and really get a good understanding of what that means. For example, I did not know when I started this what ease stitch means. And so their definition is to stitch along the seam line using long machine stitches, pull thread ends when adjusting to fit, okay? So then I had a visual in my mind and oh, okay, I do know what that is. Even though I had never actually eased anything, it is a lot of fun, it turns out. So that's cool. And if you're curious, you ease in the sleeves on the garment. Then you're gonna want to create what I call and what I teach if you attend my master class, an order of operations, okay? So this is the order in which you will assemble the piece, okay? And once you do that, then you kind of have to laugh a little bit that there's all of this information here. And again, that just comes down to the fact that they have in this case, three different shirts that I can make, and they jammed it all into one envelope. Okay, I'm sure it's largely profit-based model here, and that works for them all of these years, but it doesn't necessarily work for those of us who are visual learners. So we want to go through now one step at a time and just read the information that pertains to the shirt or whatever product you're going to be making, and then take separate notes and translate those instructions into terms that you actually understand. And again, if you come across something that makes no sense to you, like I'm just glancing here, step number 15, pin one yoke front. If you've never made a shirt, you may have no idea what a yoke is. So look it up, translate it, and then write it in an order that makes sense to you, okay? Then I will share the order of operations in which I assembled this shirt with this view, just in case you happen to want to make this exact piece. And I'm going to go through a series of videos and show you the processes that I learned while assembling this exact piece. So hang in there and make sure that you check out all the other videos associated with this pattern in the notes, okay? Now, if you've not worked with a commercial pattern before, it is very important that you pay attention to the notes that they have on the pattern piece. Now, I am still learning myself, but I do remember way back when my grandmother taught me a little bit of sewing as a child, that it was essential to cut out, I call them darts. If they're called something else, please let me know. But it's where these little triangles are. So when you lay the fabric down, and we're going to do this together, you will want to cut out those darts. And they help you when you're trying to align the pieces, and it's like a checks and balances to make sure that everything's coming together. So don't just hurry along and cut everything out, because if you do, then you can go back in and you can mark with a invisible pen if you like. But I really am a big fan of the darts, and it helped me tremendously when I was assembling this. And so I have a feeling if you're a visual learner, you're going to really appreciate the darts too. They're kind of like road signs when you're traveling, so you know where you are and you're on the right track, because you ideally will always have a matching dart on the other side. So that's a first clue. If there isn't a dart when you're sewing on the other side, you might be doing something wrong, okay? So you're going to want to cut out your pattern pieces from the actual pattern sheet and take your time with that. Work on a big surface, and then again, all of those should be ironed and nice and flat for you. So then you can fold up everything that doesn't pertain to you and get it back in this envelope. So then in your workspace, you only have the pattern pieces that pertain to your project and the instructions that pertain to your project. So you see how we're really containing this so that it's not overwhelm anymore. Okay, and then ideally you have a large surface. If you don't have your own sewing space, maybe you could use a folding table, maybe you could clear the dining room table, maybe you could use the kitchen island or something like that. Worst case scenario, you could work off of the floor, but yikes, ow, my back hurts even thinking about that. So my hope for you is that you can find or procure a large surface in which to work with your pattern pieces. I have selected and will be showing you the steps with this gorgeous art gallery fabric, which will end up being my second tunic like this style, and then chances are good I'll probably switch to a different style and choose some different fabric, but this is truly gorgeous. Now on the back of your pattern there, they list approximately how much fabric you're going to need based upon the width of the fabric and such. For this style, I purchased 2.5 yards. So a half yard of my accent fabric, or my sleeves here. The sleeves for this medium size project take exactly a half a yard. If you're using the larger sizes, you're going to need more material. So please reference that chart in the back. So 2.5 yards got me a medium tunic. You want to, when you're working with these bold prints like this, you want to pay careful attention to where those dominant features of the fabric are going to fall. Like for example, if I do put this on the back and then one of these medallions is oddly off-centered, it has a potential that it could, you know, if people are looking at me walking away from them, it could throw the eye off and potentially not be visually pleasing. So when you lay your pattern piece down on top of your fabric to cut it out, you want to take into account all of the dominant features of your fabric. A lot of you I know struggle with choosing fabrics. I have a really simple way for you to be successful in choosing your fabric, and that is to shop within the same collection and the same colorway, okay? My personal favorite spot to order fabric is Hawthorne Supply Co., and I'll put a link in the notes. I'm not affiliated with them at all. They've just provided me with 10+ years of amazing customer service over at Watermelon Wishes. And so if it isn't broken, why fix it, right? But what I love beyond their amazing service at Hawthorne Threads is that the website, I think, is very easy to shop on, and everything is grouped by color, collection, and theme, designer, whatever you're looking for, you can find it like that. So these here happen to be art gallery fabrics from the, let me give you the right name, from the Legendary Collection by Pat Bravo, and they're really, really stunning. So this, I think, will be the front of the tunic, a nice floral, and then this is going to be the back. And then these will be, for this little geographic dots here, will be the sleeves, all right? But I reserve the right to change my mind as I start cutting. Okay, so then the next tip that I have for you before you start sewing, choose a variegated thread. If you're not familiar, the variegated threads change colors as you sew with them. I was able to use the same variegated thread on all 3 of the tunics. You don't want to start sewing with this beautiful fabric and then the only thing you notice are your stitches, right? So when I'm making bags, I love to use one color thread. So what you need to do are take some little scraps of the fabric that you're going to use and then sew and test that thread out and see what it looks like on each piece, okay? Because this will save you time not having to change the thread and rewind the bobbins and all of that. If you can choose one thread that works great for you, and this does work very well, and I suspect it's because it's variegated, so it kind of, you know, is like a camouflage and it disappears at parts of it. So Walmart has a really nice selection of the Gutermann thread that you can shop in person. I do feel like it's easier to match colors in person. So that's why I suggest you shop online within the same collection, because you know the designer will have matched the colors, and then take your fabric to the store to shop for the thread, okay? And then the final tip I have, because this segment is just about tips so visual learners can break down the commercial pattern reading process and be successful. The final tip I have for you is an acronym, SAP, S-A-P. You're going to want to go slow. You're going to want to align all the darts, and you're going to want to pin, 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 okay? Slow, align, pin. Sap your way to success. I hope you found this segment to be helpful, and if you do have the courage to attempt your first successful commercial pattern, I'd like to invite you to join me on this journey. Until then, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. We'll see you soon.